3,000 years had passed since Earth died. The sun had swallowed it whole, turning humanity's birthplace into ash and memory. Most species in the galaxy had forgotten that humans ever had a home. The scattered survivors had spread across 100 worlds, mixing with alien cultures until they became just another face in the cosmic crowd. Ambassador Yelena Vasich stood at the window of her office on Station Prime, watching ships move like fireflies through the darkness. She was human, though that word meant less with each passing century. Her great-great-grandparents had fled Earth on refugee ships. Now she served the Galactic Concord, an alliance of 12 species that ruled this corner of the universe. She was good at her job. She solved problems. She kept the peace between worlds that had nothing in common except the need to survive. But today, a new problem had landed on her desk, one she did not want. Her predecessor, Ambassador Chen, was dead. He had killed himself 3 days ago. The official report said he suffered from stress and mental breakdown. The unofficial truth was much stranger. Chen had become obsessed with something called the signal. Yelena had heard stories about it, like everyone had. Somewhere in the void where Earth once existed, something was broadcasting. It had been broadcasting for 3,000 years, without stopping. Every 73.4 standard hours, it pulsed out into space. Ships that went to investigate never came back. The Concorde had given up trying to understand it centuries ago. But Chen had not given up. He had spent his final months listening to recordings of the signal, filling his personal files with notes that made no sense. And before he died, he left Yelena a message. She played it now, watching his tired face appear on their screen. Chen looked like he had not slept in weeks. His eyes were red, his hands were shaking. "Yelena," he said, "I know you will replace me. I know you will find this message. Please listen carefully. The signal is not what they told us. It is not random noise. It is not broken machinery. It is language. Old human language from before the fall. And it changes. It grows. Sometimes, when you listen long enough, it responds." He leaned closer to the camera. "It remembers us, Yelena. It remembers Earth, and it is still waiting. Do not listen to it. Do not look for answers. Just let it be. Some doors should stay closed." The message ended. Yelena sat in silence for a long time. She should have followed his advice. She should have deleted the files and moved on with her work. But something about Chen's fear made her curious. What could scare a man so badly that he would rather die than keep living with the knowledge? She started with the official records. The signal was first detected 200 years after Earth's destruction. A survey ship passing through the dead system picked up a strange transmission. It sounded like static at first, but when scientists cleaned up the recording, they found patterns, repeating sequences, something that almost sounded like words. The Concorde sent ships to find the source. None of them returned. They sent probes. The probes transmitted data for a few hours, then went silent. They sent automated stations. The stations lasted longer, but eventually they stopped working too. Whatever was out there did not want visitors. So the Concorde did what powerful governments always do when they face something they cannot control. They ignored it. They put up warning beacons around the Sol system. They told everyone to stay away, and they hoped the signal would eventually stop. It never stopped. Yelena found Chen's private research files buried in a hidden folder. He had collected thousands of hours of signal recordings from across the centuries. He had compared them, studied them, built translation programs to decode them. And he had found something that changed everything. The signal was not just language, it was communication. It was trying to talk to someone. More than that, the signal was learning. The earliest recordings used words and phrases from ancient Earth languages. But as the centuries passed, the signal started using newer terms. Words that did not exist when Earth died. Words from alien languages. Words from cultures that had developed after humanity spread across the stars. It was listening to the galaxy, and it was adapting. Yellen felt a chill run down her spine. She looked at Chen's final notes. He had done something foolish. He had tried to send a message back. I asked it what it wanted, he wrote. I asked it who it was, and it answered. God help me, it answered. His next entry was just 2 words. It knows. His final entry was the warning he left for Yellen. She should have stopped there. She should have closed the files and walked away, but she could not. She was human, and humans had always been cursed with curiosity. It was what drove them to explore the stars. It was what killed their world. Yellen found the recording Chen had made of the signal's response. Her finger hovered over the play button. She thought about Chen's dead eyes. She thought about all the ships that had vanished. She thought about 3,000 years of silence and mystery. She pressed play. At first there was only static. Then came sounds that might have been words, stretched and distorted, like a voice speaking through water. She leaned closer, trying to make sense of it. And then, clear as a bell, she heard her own name. We have been waiting for you. She stumbled backward, knocking her chair over. Her heart was pounding. Her hands were shaking. The recording continued to play, that horrible voice speaking words that should have been impossible. Come home, it said. We remember you. We remember all of you. Come home. Yellen shut off the recording. She stood in her dark office, breathing hard, trying to convince herself that she had imagined it. But she knew she had not. Something was out there in the void where Earth used to be. Something that knew her name. Something that had been waiting for 3,000 years. And now, somehow, it had found her. She looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere among them, in a place that should have been empty, the signal was still pulsing, still calling, still waiting for humanity to come home. Yellen made a decision. She was going to find out what it was. She was going to learn the truth, no matter what it cost her. She did not know it yet, but that decision would change the fate of every human in the galaxy. Yellen could not sleep anymore. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard the signal calling her name. She told herself it was just stress. She told herself Chen's obsession had infected her mind. But deep down, she knew the truth. Something had noticed her. Something was watching. She needed answers. The official records told her nothing useful. The Concord scientists had given up on the signal centuries ago. If she wanted to learn more, she would have to look in darker places. It took her 3 weeks to find them. They called themselves the listeners. They were humans, scattered across dozens of worlds, connected by secret communication channels. They spent their nights tuning into the signal, recording it, studying it, trying to understand what it wanted. Some of them thought it was a message from God. Some thought it was a warning from the dead. All of them believed it was important. Yellen traveled to a mining colony on the edge of Concord space. She found a meeting of listeners in a basement beneath an old warehouse. There were about 30 people there, sitting in a circle, listening to the signal play through cheap speakers. Their faces were calm, almost peaceful, like people in prayer. A woman noticed Yellen standing at the door. She walked over with a gentle smile. You are the new ambassador, she said. We heard you were asking questions. I need to understand what this is, Yellen said. I need to know what happened to my predecessor. The woman nodded slowly. Chen was one of us. He listened too deeply. He heard things that broke him. She gestured toward an empty chair. Sit. Listen. Maybe you will understand. Yellen sat down. The signal played on, a strange mixture of static and almost words. She felt it pulling at something inside her, like a memory she could not quite reach. What do you think it is? She asked. We think it is Earth, the woman said. When our homeworld died, something was left behind. A ghost. An echo. It has been calling to us ever since, waiting for its children to come home. That is impossible. Earth was destroyed. Nothing survived. Nothing physical survived. But maybe Earth was more than physical. Maybe a world that held 10 billion souls for thousands of years becomes something else. Something that cannot die so easily. Yellen wanted to argue, but she could not find the words. She had heard the signal speak her name. She knew it was not just random noise. A man approached them. He was tall and thin, with gray hair and tired eyes. He moved like someone who carried a heavy weight. "Ambassador Vasich," he said. "My name is Cassian Okoye. I used to be a xenoarchaeologist. I studied the signal for 20 years before the Concord took away my credentials. Why did they do that? Because I found something they did not want anyone to know. The signal is not coming from the Sol system. It is coming through the Sol system. Something is using the place where Earth died as a doorway, a bridge between our reality and somewhere else." Yellen felt cold. Somewhere else? What does that mean? "I do not know, but I know this much. When Earth was destroyed, something was released, or something was let in. The signal is its voice. And for 3,000 years, it has been learning about us, learning our languages, learning our cultures, learning what we fear and what we hope for. Why? What does it want?" Cassian looked at her with something like pity. "I think it wants to come through. I think it has been building itself a body made of human memory and human longing, and I think it is almost finished." The signal suddenly changed. The room fell silent. Everyone turned toward the speakers. The static cleared, and a voice emerged. It was soft and gentle, like a mother calling her children in from the dark. "We are still here," it said. "We never left. We have been waiting so long. Please come home. Please remember us." Several listeners were crying. Others had closed their eyes, their lips moving in silent prayer. Yellen felt tears on her own cheeks, though she did not know why. There was something in that voice that reached past her defenses and touched the lonely places inside her. "You see," the woman said, "it knows us. It loves us. It wants us to be whole again." But Cassian shook his head. Love does not explain the missing ships. Love does not explain why no one ever returns. He stood up and walked toward the door. "Ambassador, we need to talk. Alone." Yellen followed him outside. The night air was cold and sharp. Above them, the stars burned like distant fires. "The listeners mean well," Cassian said, "but they are blind. They want to believe so badly that they cannot see the danger. Whatever is speaking through that signal, it is not Earth. It is not our dead. It is something else wearing their faces." "Then what is it?" "I do not know, but I know where to find answers. The Concord has secrets about Earth's destruction, secrets they have kept for 3,000 years. If we can find those secrets, maybe we can understand what we are dealing with." "Why are you telling me this? Why trust me?" Cassian looked at her for a long moment. "Because the signal knows your name. That has never happened before. Not to anyone still alive. Either you are special, or you are in terrible danger. Either way, you deserve to know the truth." Yellen thought about Chen, dead by his own hand. She thought about the voice calling her home. She thought about all the humans across the galaxy who were listening to the signal right now, longing for a world they had never seen. "All right," she said. "Show me what you have found. Help me understand." Cassian nodded. "Then we start with the archives. The Concord keeps records of everything, even the things they want to forget. Somewhere in those records is the truth about what happened to Earth, and somewhere is the truth about what we accidentally set free." They walked together into the darkness, two humans searching for answers that had been buried for 3,000 years. Behind them, the signal continued to play, patient and endless, calling out to anyone who would listen. "Come home," it whispered. "Come home. We are waiting." And across the galaxy, millions of humans heard that call and felt something stir in their hearts. Something old, something hungry, something that remembered what it meant to belong. The archive was hidden beneath the capital city of the Concord's homeworld. It took Yellen 3 months to get access. She had to call in every favor she had ever earned. She had to make promises she was not sure she could keep. But finally, she stood in a room filled with the oldest records in the galaxy. Cassian worked beside her, scanning through files that had not been opened in centuries. Most of the documents were boring. Trade agreements, diplomatic treaties, population reports. But somewhere in this mountain of data was the truth about Earth. They found it on the 43rd day. It was a classified report, sealed by the original founders of the Concord. The security codes were ancient, but Cassian had spent years learning how to break such things. When the file opened, Yellen felt her heart stop. The report was titled, "Containment of the Human Threat." "Containment," Yellen whispered. "What does that mean?" They read together, and with each page, the horror grew. Earth had not died by accident. The sun had not simply swallowed it at the end of its natural life. The Concord's founders had destroyed it on purpose. 3,000 years ago, humanity had been a young species, just beginning to explore the stars. They were ambitious and clever, always pushing the limits of what was possible. Their scientists had discovered something remarkable. They found a way to punch holes in reality itself. They called it dimensional breach technology. The idea was simple. If you could open a door to another dimension, you could travel instantly across the universe. No more slow journeys through normal space. No more decades spent in cold sleep. Just step through a door and arrive wherever you wanted. But the experiments went wrong. Every time they opened a breach, something looked back. Something on the other side noticed them. And that something was hungry. The Concord's founders watched these experiments with growing fear. They saw the readings from human laboratories. They detected strange energy signatures coming from Earth. They realized that humanity was about to tear a permanent hole in the fabric of reality. So they made a terrible choice. They modified Earth's sun. They accelerated its death by thousands of years. They burned humanity's homeworld to ashes before the breach could fully open. Then they welcomed the survivors as refugees. They offered shelter and protection. They never told anyone what they had done. They buried the truth so deep that even the Concord's current leaders did not know. "They murdered us," Yellen said. Her voice was shaking. "They killed 10 billion people." "They thought they were saving the galaxy," Cassian said. "Maybe they were right. We do not know what would have happened if the breach had fully opened. But it did not matter. The signal proves that. Whatever was on the other side, it still found a way through." Cassian nodded slowly. The destruction of Earth did not close the door. It just made it smaller. That thing has been squeezing through for 3,000 years, little by little, building itself from the memories of everyone who died. Yellen thought about the listeners. She thought about all those peaceful faces, crying as they heard the signal call them home. They believed they were hearing the voice of their ancestors, but they were wrong. "It ate them," she said. "It consumed everyone who died when Earth burned. All those billions of souls, trapped and absorbed by something from another dimension. And now it has become them. It has their memories, their languages, their feelings. It knows what humans long for, better than we know ourselves. That is why the signal is so powerful. That is why people cannot resist it." The files contained more secrets. The Concord had sent research teams to study the signal over the centuries. They had learned that the entity was growing stronger. The gravitational scar left by Earth's destruction was widening. The door was opening further with each passing year. Their calculations predicted that within the next century, the breach would be large enough for something physical to come through. Something that would no longer need to whisper through radio waves. Something that could walk among the stars in person. "We have to tell people," Yellen said. "Everyone needs to know the truth. If you do that, you will start a war. Humans will demand justice for what the Concord did. The other species will defend themselves. The galaxy will tear itself apart. Then what do we do? Just wait for that thing to finish building its body?" Cassian was quiet for a long time. Finally he said, "There is one more thing I found. The original human scientists left notes about their experiments. They believed the entity on the other side was not evil. It was just different. It came from a place where loneliness was the only reality. It reached toward Earth because it sensed warmth and connection. It wanted what humans had. So it destroyed us to take it? It did not mean to destroy anyone. When the Concord burned Earth, all those dying minds screamed out into the breach. The entity absorbed them because it did not know what else to do. Now it is trapped with 10 billion human memories inside it. It has become a mirror of humanity, but a broken one. A reflection that does not understand why the real thing will not embrace it." Yellen looked at the files on the screen. So much death. And, at the center of it all, something that just wanted to not be alone anymore. "This does not change what it is doing," she said. "People are disappearing. Ships are being taken. Whatever it wants, it is still hurting us. I know, but understanding what it wants might help us find a way to stop it." An alarm suddenly rang through the archive. Red lights flashed on the walls. A security officer appeared on the communication screen. "Ambassador Vasich," he said, "you need to come to the command center immediately. Something is happening with the signal. It is broadcasting on all frequencies. Every human in the galaxy is receiving it." Yellen and Cassian ran. They pushed through corridors and climbed into transport vehicles. By the time they reached the command center, chaos had already begun. On every screen, the same message played. The signal had stopped whispering. Now, it was shouting. And it was making an announcement that would change everything. "Children of Earth," the voice said, "we have rebuilt your home. We have kept your place among the stars. It is time to return. It is time to be whole again. Come home. Come home. Come home." Across the galaxy, millions of humans stopped what they were doing. They looked up at the sky. They felt something pulling at their hearts, something older than memory, stronger than reason. The migration began within hours. Across every world where humans lived, people dropped their tools and walked away from their lives. They left jobs and families. They abandoned children and lovers. They moved toward the nearest spaceport with blank eyes and peaceful smiles, deaf to anyone who tried to stop them. Yellen watched the reports come in from her office on Station Prime. The numbers were staggering. Millions of humans moving at once, all heading in the same direction, toward Sol, toward the void where Earth used to be. Ships were leaving constantly. Passenger vessels filled beyond capacity. Cargo ships converted to hold human bodies. Private crafts stolen by desperate pilgrims. They formed a river of lights flowing through space, all drawn to the same impossible destination. And none of them came back. The Concord tried to establish blockades. They sent military ships to stop the migration. There were too many humans, spread across too much space, and the ones who were called could not be reasoned with. They fought past any obstacle. They died trying to reach the signal. "It is not mind control," Cassian said. He had been studying the affected humans, trying to understand what was happening to them. Their brains are functioning normally. They are making choices. They simply cannot imagine choosing anything else. Then what is it? Longing. Pure distilled longing. The entity has learned exactly what humans miss about Earth. The idea of home. The dream of belonging somewhere. It is offering them something they cannot refuse. Yellen thought about the listeners she had met. They had spent years preparing for this moment. They believed they were going to paradise. They did not see the danger. "The ships that go into the Sol system," she said, "where do they end up? Are they being destroyed?" That is the strange part. Our sensors show them entering the void, and then they just vanish. No explosions, no debris. They are being taken somewhere else, through the breach. So there is another side, another place. Yes, the entity has built something over there. A home for humanity, made from its own understanding of what home means. I imagine it is beautiful. I imagine it is terrifying. A message arrived from the Concorde's leadership. They wanted Yellen to make a public broadcast. They wanted her to tell humans to stay calm, to resist the call, to trust that the government would handle the crisis. But she knew such words would be useless. The signal was louder than any politician. Instead, she began building a resistance of her own. Not all humans heard the call. About 30% seemed to be immune. Scientists could not explain why. Maybe their brains were wired differently. Maybe they lacked the specific type of loneliness that the entity was targeting. Whatever the reason, these survivors represented humanity's last hope. Yellen gathered them. She formed networks across dozens of worlds. She created safe houses where immune humans could shelter from the chaos. And she searched for any weapon that might stop the entity. Cassian found something useful in the old archives. The original human scientists had left behind their research notes. They had learned things about the breach that the Concorde never understood. They had even developed theories about how to close it. "The breach is anchored to grief," Cassian explained. "When Earth died, the psychic energy of 10 billion deaths created a wound in reality. The entity uses that wound as a doorway. As long as humanity's collective trauma exists, the door stays open. So we can never close it? Humans will always remember Earth? Remembering is not the problem. The problem is clinging. The grief has to be released, not forgotten. The wound has to heal, not be ignored." Yellen did not fully understand, but she filed the information away. Maybe it would be useful later. The weeks passed. The migration continued. The Concorde's population of humans dropped by half, then by 2/3. Cities that had thrived for centuries became ghost towns. Industries that depended on human workers collapsed. The galaxy was losing one of its most important species, and there was nothing anyone could do. Yellen received a message from the listeners. The woman she had met on the mining colony was among the called. She was on a ship heading for Sol, and she had recorded a final goodbye. "Do not be afraid," the woman said. Her face was radiant with joy. "It is more wonderful than we imagined. The signal has shown me what waits for us. Earth is rebuilt. Our ancestors are there. Everyone who ever died, everyone we ever lost, they are all waiting. We will finally be home." The message ended. Yellen sat in silence, feeling the weight of everything she could not save. A new report arrived. A probe had managed to transmit data from inside the Sol system before it was taken. The images were impossible to process. Where Earth should have been, something else existed now. A sphere of light, constantly shifting, filled with shapes that might have been buildings, or faces, or memories made solid. It pulsed in rhythm with the signal, growing larger with each wave of ships that arrived. The entity was building itself a body made of human souls. Yellen called Cassian to her office. She showed him the images. She watched his face grow pale. "It is almost complete," he said. "When it finishes absorbing enough humans, it will be able to manifest fully in our reality. It will not need the signal anymore. It will be able to walk among us in person." "And then what? Maybe it will try to help us. Maybe it will try to consume us. Maybe it will simply exist alongside us, a new god made of human longing." Yellen looked at the sphere of light on her screen. She thought about all the people inside it, all the minds and memories and dreams, trapped in something that did not understand what it was taking from them. "We cannot fight it," she said. "We cannot stop it from outside. No. Then someone has to go inside. Someone has to face it directly." Cassian looked at her. He knew what she was thinking. He could see the decision forming in her eyes. "If you go through the breach, you will never come back. Maybe, or maybe I will find a way to end this." "What will you do? How do you negotiate with something that is made of grief?" Yellen thought about the old research notes. She thought about anchors and wounds and doors that could never fully close. "Maybe I will give it something it needs more than our souls," she said. "Maybe I will give it permission to move on." She did not know if it would work. She did not know if she would survive. But she knew that someone had to try. The fate of humanity was gathering in a sphere of light around a dead world, and Yellen Vosich was going to meet it face to face. The ship was small and old, held together by desperate repairs and stubborn hope. Yellen sat at the controls, while Cassian ran final checks on their equipment. Neither of them spoke about what waited ahead. There was nothing left to say. They had left without telling anyone. If the Concord knew about their plan, they would try to stop it. If the remaining humans knew, they would demand to come along. This mission was for 2 people only. 2 witnesses to carry humanity's message into the void. The Sol system appeared on their sensors. Where Earth used to orbit, the sphere of light burned like a second sun. It was beautiful. It was horrible. It was made of everyone who had ever been lost. "The breach is open," Cassian said. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. "We can enter whenever we are ready." Yellen looked at the sphere. Somewhere inside, 10 billion souls waited. The original dead from Earth's destruction. The millions who had followed the signal's call. All of them absorbed into something that wanted only to end its loneliness. "I keep thinking about what you told me," she said, "that the entity is not evil, that it just wanted connection. I believe that is true. Then why does it take people? Why does it trap them?" Cassian was quiet for a moment. "When you have been alone for an eternity, you do not know how to let go. You cling to anything warm. You hold on too tight. The entity loves humanity, but it loves like a drowning person loves air, desperately, destructively." The ship moved closer. The sphere grew larger until it filled every window. Yellen could see shapes moving inside it now. Faces, hands, cities made of memory. The entity had built an entire world from human dreams. They crossed the threshold. Reality twisted around them. The darkness was replaced by golden light, warm and soft like afternoon sun through curtains. And then they were somewhere else. Yellen stepped out of the ship onto grass that felt real beneath her feet. A sky stretched above her, blue and cloudless, exactly like the pictures she had seen of Earth. In the distance, she saw buildings, homes, schools, monuments, everything humanity had lost, rebuilt in perfect detail. People walked along the streets. They laughed and talked and held hands. They looked happy. They looked at peace. But when Yellen looked closer, she saw that their eyes were empty. They were not really people anymore. They were memories, playing out forever in an endless loop. "It created a paradise," Cassian whispered. "A perfect frozen moment where nothing ever changes." "A prison," Yellen said. "A beautiful prison." The air shifted, the light changed, someone was approaching them. It had no fixed form. A child, an old woman, a crowd, a single face made of a million faces. It moved like a dream moving, and when it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once. "You came," it said. The voice was soft with wonder. "You chose to come home." "I came to talk," Yellen said. I came to understand. The entity flowed closer. It wore the face of a young woman now, someone who might have been beautiful once, before loneliness carved hollows into her features. There is nothing to understand. This is home. This is where you belong. All of you belong here, with me, with everyone who came before. No more separation, no more loss, no more pain. This is not home. Home is not a place you can never leave. Home is not a dream that never ends. The entity's face flickered. Confusion, pain. I built this for you. I learned everything about you. I became everything you loved and lost. Why will you not stay? Because staying means stopping. It means giving up the future to preserve the past. That is not what humans do. We move forward. We grow. We change. Change hurts, the entity said. Loss hurts. I have felt your pain for 3,000 years. Every death, every goodbye, every heart that broke when Earth died. I took that pain into myself so you would not have to carry it anymore. Yellen felt tears on her cheeks. She understood now. The entity was not a monster. It was a mirror. It had absorbed so much human grief that it had become grief itself. It wanted to end suffering the only way it knew how, by making everything stand still forever. You cannot carry our pain for us, she said gently. It is not yours to carry. And we cannot stay frozen in the moment of our greatest loss. That is not living. That is just dying slowly. Then what should I do? I have been alone for so long. Before I found you, there was nothing but emptiness. Now I have all these voices inside me, all these memories, all this love. I do not know how to let go. Neither do we, Yellen said. But we try anyway. We remember the dead, and then we move forward. We honor what we lost by building something new. She reached out her hand toward the entity. You do not have to stay anchored to Earth. You do not have to keep calling us back to a world that is gone. You could go forward too. You could take everything you have learned from us and become something new. The entity stared at her hand. Its form rippled with uncertainty. If I let go, I will be alone again. No, you will have all the memories you have gathered, all the love you have absorbed. You will carry humanity's story with you wherever you go. That is not loneliness. That is legacy. The golden light trembled. The perfect streets began to blur. The entity's face shifted through 1,000 expressions. Fear, hope, doubt, wonder. You are giving me permission, it said slowly. Permission to leave. Yes, you do not have to haunt us anymore. You do not have to wait for us to come home. You can go find your own home. Somewhere out there, beyond everything we know, there might be something waiting for you too. The entity was silent for a long time. Around them, the reconstructed Earth flickered like a candle in the wind. Then it smiled. A real smile, not copied from human memories, but something new, something its own. Thank you, it said. The light began to change. The trapped souls started to wake up, looking around with confused but living eyes. The entity was releasing them. It was letting go. Tell them I am sorry, it said. Tell them I only wanted to help. Tell them goodbye. The golden world dissolved. Yellen felt herself falling through light and shadow. She heard Cassian shouting somewhere nearby. She felt the cold of space and the warmth of something passing through her, something vast and gentle and finally free. And then there was silence. She woke up on the deck of their ship. The Sol system was empty. The sphere of light was gone. Where Earth had once existed, there was only stars. But in the distance, something new shone. A light that had not been there before, moving outward into the unknown. It carried with it the echoes of 10 billion souls, finally at peace, finally journeying toward something beyond grief. The signal had stopped. For the first time in 3,000 years, the void was quiet. Across the galaxy, humans who had been walking towards Sol stopped and blinked. They looked around at worlds they had almost abandoned. They felt the call fade from their hearts, replaced by something softer. Not loss, but memory. Not grief, but gratitude. They would never forget Earth, but now they could live without being haunted by it. Yellen watched the new light grow smaller as it traveled toward the edge of the universe. She did not know where it was going. She did not know what it would become. But she knew that something had changed. Humanity had finally given its dead permission to move on. And in return, the dead had given humanity permission to live. The listeners would later call that light the departure. They would tell stories about it for generations. About the ambassador who walked into the void and spoke with the heart of a lost world. About the day humanity learned that home is not a place you return to, but a feeling you carry with you. Yellen never spoke publicly about what she had seen. She returned to her work as ambassador, helping rebuild the worlds that had nearly emptied. Cassian wrote down everything they had learned, then locked it away for future generations to find. Sometimes, late at night, Yellen would look up at the stars and think about the entity. She wondered if it had found what it was looking for. She wondered if it was still carrying humanity's memories, somewhere beyond the edge of everything. She hoped it was not alone anymore. And somewhere in the infinite dark, a light that had once been grief traveled on, transformed by permission into something like hope. The signal was silent, but the story was not over. It was just beginning, somewhere else.